So obviously with season 1 of XDefiant, we got a brand new faction in the GSK, and that had me thinking that I haven't actually done a tier list yet for the factions in the game. And so today we're going to be ranking from best to worst all of the factions in XDefiant. This is going to be freaking tough. Looking at this list now, they're honestly all very usable, and although I do think there are clear sort of favorites, I actually think they're all very viable and they all actually do bring their own sort of play style that is very useful to XDefiant. So this is going to be very difficult, but without wasting any time, let's get stuck right into it. Now, I think to start off, and keep in mind, this is not based on ranked, because obviously ranked has just dropped and I've seen a lot of talk about the actual factions in that. I haven't played ranked myself. I've been too busy with essentially other games and other content on other channels to sort of dip my toes into ranked. So I haven't played ranked just yet. This is all just based on casual, but I feel like it's going to be relatively similar between each of them. And I think for me, the one that stands out as the best is the Phantoms. I think that they go S tier, and I think they are kind of the clear S tier as of right now, and it is almost simply based on their passive trait, which is obviously that they get more health than everyone else. I think that is a bit of an issue, and I've been saying that since months before this game launched. I remember making videos about this. It was over a year ago now when the sort of first beta came out. I remember pretty much complaining that no faction in this game should have any differences when it comes to damage output or HP. Everyone should have the same amount of health. Everyone should deal the same amount of damage. And I've been saying that for a long time now, and unfortunately they didn't listen. Not that they would listen to me anyway, but there were other people saying it, and yeah, they still haven't really listened to that. So that is a big issue for me personally. It's not the end of the world. I don't notice it to the point of like, oh my god, you can't kill the Phantoms, they're too strong. It's only 20 health, but that one extra shot that it might take to kill them, you might have killed them, but then they've got that little bit of extra health and they've killed you in that time. And the amount of times that that happens per game, if there's 3 of them on the other team, that could happen almost every single time you die. You could rack up 30 deaths per game where almost all of them could have been a kill for you instead of a death. And obviously you'd still eventually die anyway, but it just, yeah, it can be a real issue. So they go in the S tier for me. On top of that, just the mag barrier ability is so strong for playing the objective. I don't have an issue with the mag barrier. I don't love that they've got more health, but the mag barrier itself, I actually love it, and I use it quite a bit myself. So Phantoms go top tier for me, and I don't see anyone being that close to them personally. Now, I think for me, anyway, in second place is probably Echelon. This is kind of based on just solo play though, not so much to do with playing the objective. So this could get knocked down a little bit by the time I, get through this, but Echelon's like radar ability, the intel suit, that thing is absolutely clapped. I don't know why it's so powerful. I don't know why the entire team can see who I'm pinging, because that's also just kind of mental. I can use an ability and everyone on my team can see the enemies. That is a bit too much for me. So if you've got a couple of people on your team with Echelon, it's almost like permanent wall hacks for everyone on the team, which is pretty cracked. But then that is the extent of where they're really good. For me, the digital ghillie suit isn't that good. I can see people just fine unless they're going to like sit in the corner. If they're running at me, I can see them. I'm going to kill them. So digital ghillie suit isn't that good. And then their ultimate is very good. But again, it is almost just purely based on solo gameplay. It's not, it can help you win a game because you can obviously kill a whole enemy team, but it's not like an objective-based thing. So for me, like playing solo and being a lone wolf and just going out and trying to get kills, Echelon's really good. When it comes to team play, I don't think they're that good. Unless you are playing the Slayer role on your team, then they're definitely very good. But I still think they're so good with the intel suit ability that they have to go A tier for me. Now, just quickly for those interested in making the weapon grind a little bit easier in XDefiant, MitchCactus.com has you covered, as they'll actually grind weapon levels, attachments, and skins for you while you're out at work or at school. They have well over 10,000 verified Trustpilot reviews. All of their packages are completely safe and legitimate. They also have 24/7 customer support and even a 100% money back guarantee. Head on over to MitchCactus.com using the link in the description and use code SAMMY for 5% off for a limited time only. Now, this is where it starts to get pretty freaking difficult, actually. I think Libertad is actually sort of underappreciated, because if you've got a good Libertad player that is sticking near you and playing the objective, they are constantly healing you and you probably don't notice it. On top of that, all of their abilities, and especially their ultimate is the most insane thing I think I've ever seen in a shooter. It is actually pretty much impossible to kill anyone who's on their ultimate when they pop it. So I think Libertad has to also go A tier, but realistically for team play and for winning games, I actually think they go above Echelon. It's just that, I don't know, obviously even if you're playing for the team, everyone has to play solo to some extent. Everyone's doing their own job. And so even with Echelon not being that team focused, you are still dominating as Echelon. Whereas with Libertad, you kind of need to be right next to teammates at all times for those positives from that faction to actually kick in, if that makes sense. So I'm not too sure about these two, but I think I'm basing this off of me. So I'm going to put Echelon above them. But yeah, Libertad is still very, very useful. Now, this has just gotten even harder. I'm not too sure. GSK, because I've played them a lot recently, they feel really good, but I'm not actually too sure how they stack up. I think the ADS ability is very good, but their Shockwire, it's useful, but I don't think it's like game-changing or anything like that. The ultimate's very good, but it's not even remotely as good as... it's still probably not as good as the Phantoms, actually. So they've probably got the weakest ultimate out of... definitely the ones on the board, and even it's weaker than DedSec. I would say it's probably about even with the cleaners. So I don't know. I'm torn between these two spots. I've played them a lot recently, so I kind of feel like I've gotten into the groove of GSK, but realistically I think it's actually probably C tier, and that's, I don't know, it makes them sound worse than they are. I don't think GSK is bad by any means. Even if I was to put something in this D tier, all of these are so close to each other than probably the Phantoms that it kind of looks bad on the tier list. But I think for now I'm going to put them in the C tier, even though that does feel a little bit low. They definitely have their place, and I think you almost are going to need one in ranked to use that ADS. So now that I think of it, if I'm going to try and include ranked, I actually think they do need to go B tier, because yeah, that ADS ability is actually kind of cracked. That's really the only thing they've got going for them, but it is also so good that yeah, I think B tier actually makes a bit more sense. Now we then have DedSec, and I think I'm going to put them B tier as well, probably just behind, but I don't know. A good DedSec player can genuinely... I think actually they're going to go above. A good DedSec player can genuinely change the game. If you've got someone on your team who is constantly hacking enemies' abilities and stuff like that, as well as their ultimate is just insane. It literally shuts down the whole enemy team from pretty much doing anything but shooting their gun. I think they definitely have to go above GSK. I think it's hard to tell because no one really plays DedSec. I feel like they're probably the least played faction in the whole game, but they're actually really good. They borderline could go there now that I look at it, but it's just one of those ones where it's almost the opposite of Echelon, where playing, like using DedSec on your own, if you're just trying to go for kills and stuff, it's actually kind of pointless. They're just not that good at doing that. But on the flip side, if you're playing with teammates, or even if you're playing solo but you're just trying to win, their abilities are just freaking mental. So I'm going to leave them there for now, but to be honest, I've actually got to put them A. Their ultimate is just so insane, and the option to hack abilities, that, for example, the Phantom's mag barrier, that can be a game changer. So this is one of those ones that I think in the right hands, they're A tier. For probably most players, including myself, I would probably put them B tier, but I think a good DedSec player can literally, they could borderline go S tier actually. So I'm going to put them A tier, and then that leaves the cleaners, who I think I'm going to put C tier. I feel like they're fun to use. Their passive with the incendiary rounds can be useful, but outside of that, I don't think they're that good. Their ultimate, in my opinion, is absolute garbage. If I see someone with a flamethrower, I just stand back and shoot them and they are dead. So I don't see any use in their ultimate. Their fire drone thing is kind of useless as well, in my opinion. Now, the fire bomb that they have is pretty good. You can actually just jump on an objective and deal a fair bit of damage, but that just feels very situational. You've got to be right next to people to use that. And it almost feels as though if you're going to use that, it's almost suicide at the same time, unless you can kill everyone in the room, because by the time you're using that, if you don't kill someone with it, they're going to kill you. So all of their abilities to me just feel a little bit underwhelming, and it's weird to put them here because I feel like they're pretty commonly used and they're not bad by any means, but they are still probably the worst, which I think goes to show that the balancing overall isn't too bad between all of these. I think definitely the Phantoms need a little bit of tweaking, but I don't think the difference between the cleaners, for example, and Echelon is actually that big of a difference. So it feels weird having them C, but when you actually take a look at their abilities and stuff, I just feel like they are definitely lacking a little bit compared to the rest. And that's kind of the same with the GSK outside of the ADS. The ADS is definitely very useful, but the Shockwire, it can be useful, but it's not that, you know, it's not necessary. It's definitely not better than the ADS. And then their ultimate is, yeah, it's all right. It's not that good. So I think that is my final layout for the faction tier list in season 1. Now this is all probably a very hot take, so feel free to roast me in the comments if you massively disagree with my list here. It is also kind of hard to freaking rank only 6 in a 5-tier tier maker, so it's a little bit dodgy, but I think I'm overall fairly happy with this list. But like I said, be sure to leave your own thoughts down in the comment section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.